So yesterday I was on a live television show, live TV, um, in up here in Montreal, Canada, called In Direct de la Universe, and played a song. It was really a great experience all the way around. Um, it was like there. If you ever saw this show called The Gary Shandling Show, where it's all about behind the scenes of a TV show and how it operates and all the different personalities and all the activity. It was a lot like that because we were there for 2 days going over it the first day, and it's like a lot of prep goes into a live television show. I mean, I think Saturday Night Live works on their show all week, right? So this is kind of a miniature version of that. I would say it's an hour-long show, and it's been going on for 16 years. The general premise is they find a personality, and that personality picks certain aspects of life that they um, it, like, or musical acts that they like, and then they bring in those musical acts to sort of surprise them. And I was one of the acts for that. And I played one of my songs called Even Though, which is from an album called Our Shadows Will Remain. And it was great. It was like, super respectful, super good energy. I went over the song like 400 times. I did live looping, so that's that's a heady thing to do in a live TV situation because as long as I've been doing that, even within that, you can mess up a loop and then you have to restart it. You can't possibly go with a really faulty loop. A little off kilter is okay, but like if the machine does something funky or whatever, you can't do it. So it had to go off without a hitch, and that sort of nerviness of being out of control and sort of letting go into the moment. It was crazy. I had it real mapped out. I did my due diligence. I think I almost over prepared and psyched myself out. I think I almost over rehearsed it. And the sound checks, I kept like we did it like 5, 6 times amongst the 2 days before the actual live TV show, and pretty much every time I did it in the sound checks and in the rehearsals, I just absolutely nailed it. And then, of course, there's an old adage in the music business that is like, if you have a great sound check, that's usually a bad omen. Um, and if you have a bad sound check, it can usually mean a good omen because who knows? That's obviously not always true, but it can happen. And I wouldn't say it happened here, but I definitely felt like when it was like, okay, and now you're on live TV in front of millions of people. Um, yeah, got a little shaky legs, couple things. I don't know. I haven't watched it back, but the people there were very kind. I got a lot of bravos afterwards and high fives and all that. So it certainly was not a disaster. It was good. It was really good. But the interesting thing is, afterwards, I got like a cloud of discouragement hit me when I came back to the hotel last night. I just got, I don't know if it was the adrenaline of the whole thing and then it sort of being over. I felt centered the whole time. I've had quite a lot of experience of being on TV back in the day. I did Letterman, I think 5, maybe 6 times. I was on Leno's show, Conan a few times. So I've been in that real high pressure situation. Now those shows are all taped, but um, even within the fact that they're taped, there is that pressure that you better nail it because obviously it's like you don't want to be like, hey, wait, can we do it one more time? I mean, I don't think I've ever had to do that one more time thing, maybe, but I don't think so. So there's still that feeling of you better nail it. But there is the out of if disaster hits, you can do it again. Not the case last night. But anyway, I've been on a real upswing, and I play on a really big TV show last night. I do great. I make all kinds of like friends and some old acquaintances. We connected really well. I mean, it couldn't have all been nicer. It couldn't have all gone better. And yet, here's this wave of discouragement that hit. I'm thinking of this upcoming tour. I'm thinking about how grueling it's going to be. I'm thinking about my daughter and leaving her for an extended period of time, which is difficult, but you gotta make a living as well. And also you want to be a parent who's pursuing a vision and a dream. That's how you are also a good parent. So, and maybe that's a justification, but I don't think so. You got to provide as well, and this is my means of doing that. So yeah, but that being said, you got to also be sensitive to it and figure it out. And I mean, thank God for FaceTime because that really does help. I was thinking about bands back in the day, in like the '70s or '80s or what. I mean, even '90s. I mean, when did FaceTime come into being? Because I've been on FaceTime with my daughter, even just being up here in Canada, away for a couple days, like already a couple, every day basically, and you really connect that way. I mean, obviously, it's not a replacement for time together. But anyway, that's not the point of the video. The point of the video is how to overcome discouragement and like breaking down what encouragement really is. And I was like thinking, I recognized that I was discouraged. And also, I started scrolling on YouTube to look for something to comfort me. And this sermon by this Charles. Have you ever heard of Dr. Charles Stanley? He's like this old time preacher, and I really like this guy. Um, and so sometimes I listen to his sermons, and I was listening, and one of his came up, and I didn't express this out loud that I was feeling discouraged, but it's so funny. The YouTube algorithm will give you stuff that you need because one came up for like when you're feeling discouraged or how to encourage yourself and stuff like that. I was like, wow, this is exactly where I'm at. I'm feeling discouraged, and why? And it's interesting because uh, externally speaking, things are going really, really well. Things are moving along. My team is sort of happy with the activity that's going on. My little team, um, we're we're motivated, we're inspired. External opportunities are coming in, and I mean, compared to a year ago, things are going gangbuster, gangbusteringly well. I don't know why I attempted that strange word right there, but so and this sort of I think exemplifies the spiritual war aspect of our lives, like the fact of principalities and demonic entities. Um, and the fact that when you have momentum and wind beneath your sails, that is when you should look out for discouraging voices flooding in or things that make it hard. You can focus on certain aspects about life. Your mind will suggest certain things. Like I'm looking at crypto charts are crashing, and my mind is damning me. Like yeah, I mean, for investing in something going down or whatnot, whatever it is, it'll find an inroad um, to sort of sabotage the moment, especially when there's reason to celebrate and ride the wave of momentum into um, into a better future, really. I don't know if you ever listened to Neville Goddard's stuff. It's the manifestation guy where he talks about your imagination is sort of the co-creator with God about your future reality, and the three-dimensional world that we're currently in is nothing more than a reflection of your past imaginations. So it's similar to the sort of believe it and you will receive it. Believe that ask God for something. Believe He's given it to you and it will be yours. It's similar to that. He calls God the human imagination, and that's an interesting concept. But if you think about it, like when you're on an up, like say you just did a TV show and it went pretty well, that would be a great launch pad for the imagination to envision success or envision other opportunities. And so it's no surprise that a wave of discouragement hit me. And so I was thinking about encouragement, to be encouraged. Uh, I thought about, oh yeah, the word courage is in that. Encouragement, um, to be courageous. Um, Dr. Stanley was talking about, he's obviously a faith, a believer in Jesus and God. And so for him, it's all about that. It's all about um, how can you be discouraged when you know you're in the presence of God? And I found some comfort in that. And I was like thinking about um, the different frames of like, like the sort of faith-based frame of turning it all over to God, put it on God's plate, and sort of let go and let God philosophy, versus a more stoic or sort of self-empowered viewpoint of like self-motivation and getting after it and working hard. And I believe the secret to being encouraged and remaining encouraged is sort of is a combination of, for me personally, is a combination of turning it over to God or asking Him for help, um, and then also realizing I also have to apply effort. So I know some faith people, like with the manifestation stuff I was talking about with Neville Goddard, they think that stuff is sort of, I don't know, not in keeping with Christ because maybe it leads to self worship or something, I guess is the idea. But I don't look at it like that. I just think, the human imagination is a tool given to us by our Creator. And to me, it seems a natural springboard for creating our lives. Like the imagination shouldn't just be a nightmare machine. It should be like something where we push it towards positive visions of the future we want to create. And in doing that, we're co creating with God. And then our behavior um, in the now, to the degree that we're like falling off or sinning or being lazy or falling into addictions versus getting up, doing breath work, working out, getting after our purpose, is the degree that we can frame our imagination in a positive or negative way, right? So if we're off off the reservation in Sinsville, then obviously our imaginations become a nightmare machine where we just start thinking about horrific events in the future. Whereas if we're getting after it and doing our breath work and all that kind of stuff and our working out or whatever it is, whatever your practices are to be really positive, then it's easier to remain encouraged, and envision a positive future. But I none of the, I like all this stuff. I like the God stuff. I like the imagination stuff. I believe in manifestation. I also believe in God being the ultimate power in all this, and it's my end of the bargain of co-creating the future I want with God. Like I have an end in that bargain. I can't just say, "Hey God, you got this," and then lay on the bed and watch, Netflix. I don't think that's how it works. I think I ask God for help so that I can feel encouraged enough to do the breath work, to do the activity towards the vision I want to create. And then when I am laying in bed, rather than like scrolling, maybe utilizing my imagination to envision something and having the energy and the encouragement to keep doing just that. So it's sort of a holistic environment. It's like a machine that all has to kind of be working together, and where where is my effort ending and God's efforts beginning, where's God's efforts ending and my efforts beginning or ending or whatever I said. So That's one thing. So, but the real key, because I don't really feel discouraged anymore, and it was just like kind of a slow wave. I didn't really sleep well last night, and I can't say last night was an amazing night, and it probably should have been. I mean, at least when I got back to the hotel, it was fine, but I was like tossing and turning and scrolling and not really on my highlight game because I didn't sleep well, and that means I didn't get up and really get after it today, which is fine. It's a Sunday. But the real saving grace of getting out of discouragement for me was was the simplest thing of all, was just noticing, being aware that I was discouraged. And it sounds kind of almost banal to say, or like yeah, who wouldn't notice that? But the truth is, I don't think we are always aware of what's going on inside of us, and we're not used to observing our own internal space and emotional landscape as much as we are used to just running from it when it's uncomfortable. But what was good about last night was a couple things. I noticed right away that I was discouraged. I sort of questioned the discouragement. There's certain factors, certain discouraging factors in my life that I was focusing on, or what I perceive as discouraging factors, because really in the light of day, they're not necessarily. They're just maybe not exactly as I would ideally have them be. Um, so observation is the key to getting out of discouragement, is the key to cultivating encouragement. Presence, like Dr. Charles Stanley was saying, being present. He was calling it presence with God, but if you're not a believer, you could just say being present. I think that could work too. Um, so yeah, it was just the awareness of it, and then I was also thinking, because of the sort of wind beneath my sails of like doing some sort of like of doing a lot of work lately, of not being really in a rut lately. I instantly was like, "Oh, you're surprisingly in a difficult emotional space right now. All of a sudden, you're in a kind of a negative space." And I was like, "Well, this is cool. This is a challenge. Okay." And I was like, "Wow, that's cool." Because all of a sudden, it was like, rather than being in the spiritual battlefield, in the spirit war, getting just clobbered and beat over the head and then going and running down the street to the bar or whatever and drowning myself in distraction, I was like, oh, okay, this is the game. This is game time. This is good. This is a test. This is a challenge. You are discouraged now. How do you get encouraged? Listen to a sermon. The sermon didn't really lift me out of it, but it was more just a combination of obs- more observation, letting the cloud of discouragement just pass through. And then this morning, I woke up super early. My daughter called me, FaceTime. She woke me up actually, and I just started pounding coffees because I barely slept. And it's been a pretty good day. It's just been a lazy day laying around. There's a huge snowstorm outside, and yeah, that's it. But so anyway, I don't know if that helps or not. I think it kind of could. I don't know if I was too rambly. Like I said, I'm a little sleep deprived, but I figure I just felt like making a video anyway. So hopefully that helps. Yeah. So the keys are, the sort of key points that I was trying to make was, I believe, um, my pathway towards the light is a combination of giving it to God and also meeting Him in the ways I need to by applying effort. So it's not just His effort, it's my effort as well. I know a lot of Christians disagree with that. That's fine. You can have your own perspective. You can also, I know a lot of people don't believe in God. That is also fine. I'm just giving you my perspective. So it's that, and the big one is, hold captive every thought. Observe, acknowledge, bring it into presence. If you find yourself in a negative state, just the very knowing that, oh, I'm in a negative state. And then all of a sudden I sort of use metacognition, which means I become the observer of my thoughts and I can see clearly. It's not that difficult. It's like going into a dark basement with a big flashlight and flashing the light in the corners of the room and seeing, oh, there's that negative thought. How real is that negative thought? Well, okay, that is a kind of a hard situation. Okay, that is a difficult situation. But then you go to the God part and go, but he's got you. He's gonna see to it. He's gonna make sure that you can get through this and that it'll be great. And none of my situations are that bad. I don't mean to like say I'm in some kind of tough bind. I'm not. I mean, I wouldn't even want to say what I'm talking about because you'd be like, oh God, that's what you're worried about. It's like that. So all good, but I just thought that was an interesting little vibe. And so there you go. How to remain encouraged. And then think about encourage. How does encouragement take courage? Let's ask the chat that. If you can, comment below anything you want at all. I appreciate the feedback. I've just been answering some of the comments on the last couple videos I made, and it's been fun. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you have a great day. Peace. Like, comment, share, and subscribe.